So guys, I always refer to hydrogen peroxide as the miracle product when it comes to using it in your garden. It's so many uses and so many reasons that it can make a huge difference. So we're going to talk about what happens when you add hydrogen peroxide to your vegetable garden today. And it, like I said, it makes a huge difference. And I'm going to show you each way that you use it in the garden and the formulation. So guys, these tomatoes are doing quite well. I've had them in the ground for a couple weeks. We had a little bit of cold damage on them. You can still see some of that. But the first thing we're going to use hydrogen peroxide is we're going to mix it 1 part hydrogen peroxide with 4 parts water. We've got it mixed in our tank here, and it's always a good idea to do this before you plant. So what you want to do is you want to pour it directly on the soil around the base of the plant if you've already planted and you're seeing some issues, or you can do it into the seed starting trays, but let the soil dry before watering it again. Now, this also can be a good thing to do to stop bacteria and fungi in the soil. So you can do this before you plant. Just put this on the soil in the planting area. And like I said, if you're using a 1-to-4 ratio, which you'd say 1 ounce to 4 ounces of water or 1 cup to 4 cups of water, just make sure you do that ratio. You don't want to put it down in the soil in its pure form. So remember, this is great for stopping soil bacteria and fungi that can do a lot of damage to your vegetables. Now, this is something that's critical to do if you do a lot of pruning and a lot of work with an individual set of tools. If you don't have different tools for the garden, you want to use something like this. This is a pure hydrogen peroxide soak. At the end of the day, I'll just put them in here, leave them there possibly for a couple of hours or sometimes overnight if I forget about them. But this is a way to stop transferring fungal diseases from plant to plant. You also don't have to do the soak method, but I have a couple of bottles in there. So it's really one of those things that I never dispose of the hydrogen peroxide. I just make sure the lid is tightly put on there. It's got a sealed gasket. Also, if you don't want to do that method, you can spray your tools with a spray of pure hydrogen peroxide in between pruning. If you're going from plant to plant, you're not forced to do this type of soak. You can just spray them and then wipe them down with a paper towel to make sure that there's none left on the tool itself. So just remember, you can either do a dunking soak or just a misting spray in between plants. Now, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to oxygenate the soil and the roots to boost the plant's health overall. Now, roots obviously need oxygen to absorb proper nutrients. H2O2 breaks down into water and oxygen. So you want to use this in this method. You want 1 teaspoon of hydrogen peroxide per 1 cup. And you want to water the plants every 1 to 2 weeks with this formula. And this will definitely help in potted plants, raised beds, and even compacted soil. Now, I noticed on this Japanese eggplant, I was seeing some yellowing on some of the leaves, and I believe it to be from too much rain, because my irrigation system has a shutoff that if it gets too much rain, it'll shut off for 24 and up to 48 hours if we keep getting rain. But sometimes that if your roots are too saturated with water, this is a great way to treat root rot in overwatered plants. So you're going to mix 1 tablespoon with 3% hydrogen peroxide per cup of water, and you're going to drench the soil thoroughly, especially around the root zone. Now, you want to repeat this process every 3 to 5 days until you see an improvement in the plant, and you want to do this at the first sign of wilting or yellowing of the leaves, or even if the roots are a little bit mushy around there. You see so much water in the soil. So that's a great way to prevent any kind of death from your plant from overwatering or too much rain. So if you've ever had the problem with damping off, you'll notice that your tomatoes or whatever else vegetables you have growing will suddenly just bend over. I'll try to find a picture of 2 of this, but I don't know if I have it in my video, my collection of different photographs. But anyways, it's a great idea to take some hydrogen peroxide. You want 1 ounce per 1 cup, and you want to put it in the solution, your seeds in the solution, and this will help break down the seeds coating and disinfect surface fungi. So just remember that this will prevent that problem that you often have with seedlings suddenly falling over. Now, one thing you want to remember is you want to rinse them thoroughly with clean water before you're planting. And you want to do this just before planting the seeds like tomatoes, peppers, or beans. Now, another problem that I've had in the garden from time to time is powdery mildew, and sometimes it's a powder that kind of grows on the leaves. It's a type of fungus, and it just gets everywhere and spreads very easily. It oxidizes. The way this works is when you spray the mixture of hydrogen peroxide, it oxidizes fungal spores on the leaf surfaces. So when you do this, you want to spray from beneath beneath the leaf, from above the leaf, and make sure you saturate it quite well with the formula. Now the exact formula is 1 tablespoon of hydrogen peroxide per quart of water, or ½ a cup per gallon. You want to spray it directly on the leaves, and you want to do this early morning or in the evening after the sun has went over the horizon to prevent any sun scald or sunburn on new and tender leaves. So just remember, this is something you want to do at the first sign of mildew or mold on the plants, and especially like this squash and the cucumbers I have. I do this every year to make sure we prevent diseases from starting early in the season. Now this is a plant cloner I made a while back, and it's really simple to make. It's just made from a 5-gallon bucket. I'll link the video in the description right up here at the top of the page, but this helps prevent adding the hydrogen peroxide will help prevent algae buildup, bacteria, and pathogens in the closed water system. So you just want to add 1 tablespoon per gallon about every week, and then if you do a cleaning of the system, make sure you do it as well at that time so you can prevent any of those diseases or any of those pathogens from being in your water. So I have several different types of hydroponic systems, but this one I really like because it's so small and I can clone plants very quickly. I've got other ones that are dedicated just to growing plants, so this is one that I really like. Simple to build, so if you're interested, take a look at that video. So this is a great product to use, hydrogen peroxide, if you're having a problem with mites or aphids. You take 1 part hydrogen peroxide and 4 parts water. You can add a few drops of Castile soap to help it stick to the leaves, and you want to misspray any type of plant where you're seeing aphids or mites. It will definitely help with those problems, and you want to do this about once a week to help prevent any buildup of an infestation that might destroy your plant over time. So if you're having a problem with mold or allergy on anything in the garden, I've got some Adirondack chairs next to an area out front, and often, maybe it's because it's the plastic material they're made out of, the recycled material, that mold and algae will sometimes grow on them. So you take pure hydrogen peroxide, spray on the chair or wherever you're seeing the mold problem, let it sit for about 10 minutes, and then you can easily scrub it off, give it a light rinse, and it won't come back near as quickly. Now if you collect your own rainwater, and this is actually one of my smaller rainwater collections, but if you do this, you want to put about 1 cup to 25 gallons of water, and you want to let it sit a little while before use, about 1 day, and then you can use it the following day. But that will prevent bacteria buildup. It'll prevent mosquito larvae from reproducing in there, and you want to do this about every 2 weeks to keep your rainwater as fresh and pure as possible. Now this is a homemade composter I made just from an ordinary trash can. I took the lid and flipped it over so it would allow a little bit of rainwater to go into it. But you want to add just a little bit of this on occasion, 1 cup of hydrogen peroxide to a gallon of water, and just sprinkle it about once every week onto your composter to stimulate the growth. That little bit of oxygen in the formulation is going to help the microbes get a little bit of a jump start and help the decaying process in your composter. Now these roses had a terrible time with leaf spot on the leaves, and I found that by doing this, by putting 1 tablespoon to about 1 quart of water and spraying it on the leaves in the evening, cut down on that leaf spot, and it basically has brought them back to life. This one is on the verge of death. So if you're having leaf spot on any of your plants, specifically roses, by using the hydrogen peroxide, you can cut down on that and revive their health very quickly. Now if you make your own compost tea, hydrogen peroxide in its pure form, not diluted, ran through all your pumps, your air stones, your tubing everywhere. If you do that before you start using it, you can prevent any pathogens from being introduced into your compost tea. So remember, this is something you want to do when you're cleaning your system or if you're starting a new one. Now if you notice that your vegetables are very sluggish in their growth, it could be a nutrient problem. Maybe they're not getting enough nutrients into their system. By taking 1 tablespoon per cup of hydrogen peroxide and watering the soil about once a week, that can help boost the health and the nutrient uptake into the plant. So hydrogen peroxide really is a miracle product around your vegetable garden and in your ornamentals. So guys, currently I have 2 bottles of hydrogen peroxide around the greenhouse and 1 in the garage where I grow some plants in that area. So just remember, hydrogen peroxide is one of those things that will help you in so many different ways. I hope you took notes, because some of these things will stop your vegetables and your ornamentals from having serious problems along the way. It really is a great product to use in your garden. So guys, have a great day, and I really appreciate you watching.